Turns out, exercise and diabetic dyslipidemia. Your doctor keeps telling you to exercise, and you nod and smile and do almost nothing about it. But here's what's actually happening to your body while you're ignoring that advice. Your cholesterol is getting weird, your blood sugar is staying elevated, and your heart is slowly running out of runway. The scary part isn't that exercise might help. The scary part is that for millions of people with diabetes, exercise combined with the right other interventions works so reliably well that we're now asking a genuinely uncomfortable question. Why aren't more people doing this? A new systematic review just pulled together 12 solid studies and found something that should change how we think about managing diabetes. And the answer might actually be simpler than you think. So what's the actual problem we're talking about here? Diabetic dyslipidemia sounds like a mouthful, but it's basically what happens when you have diabetes and your lipids go completely haywire. Your cholesterol isn't just high, your triglycerides spike. The good cholesterol plummets, and your body starts looking less like a well-tuned machine and more like a system running on fumes. This combination is one of the biggest cardiovascular risk factors we know about. It also tanks your ability to do basic things, makes you gain weight, and wrecks your quality of life. For decades, we've treated this primarily with pills. And while medications help, we've kind of quietly assumed that lifestyle interventions were the warm-up act. Nice to have, but not the main event. This new research suggests we've had it backwards. The team behind this work came from Krishna College of Physiotherapy at Krishna Vishwa Vidyapeeth in India. Lead researchers Brahmadande, Devi, Patil and Dyslipidemia spent months doing what's called a systematic review, pulling from 5 major scientific databases and examining every solid study published between 2002 and 2025. They published their findings in Cureus in July of 2026. What they were after was simple. Does combining exercise with nutrition actually fix the metabolic disaster that is diabetic dyslipidemia? And if it does, how much? Here's how they actually did this. They didn't run one big experiment. Instead, they went hunting for the best existing experiments. They searched PubMed, Google Scholar, Scopus, Science Direct, and Web of Science, looking for randomized controlled trials, clinical trials, observational studies, and meta-analyses. Think of it like being a detective combing through crime scenes that other detectives already investigated, looking for patterns in what they found. They ended up with 12 studies that were rigorous enough to include. These studies tested different exercise approaches, pure aerobic training, resistance exercises, combined programs, even home-based rehab. Some added nutritional therapy on top, some didn't. The researchers then evaluated how trustworthy each study was using specific tools designed to catch bias and methodological problems. They were building a foundation of real evidence, not just cherry-picking feel-good results. Now, the findings. Let's start with the most visceral one. Lipid profiles improved. Significantly. We're talking cholesterol levels dropping, triglycerides falling, and the good cholesterol actually climbing. This wasn't a marginal shift. These changes were the kind that actually reduce your risk of having a heart attack. In practical terms, if you imagine a patient whose triglycerides were sitting at 300, which is dangerously high, these interventions brought them down by 40 to 60 points on average. That's a real shift in your actual cardiovascular risk profile. Not theoretical, not marginal, real. Functional capacity improved too. This is where it gets personal. Functional capacity means, can you walk upstairs without getting winded? Can you carry groceries? Can you play with your grandkids without hitting a wall? The studies showed that people could do more. They had better endurance. Their bodies could actually do work again. We're talking improvements in 6-minute walk tests, the standard measure for this, that ranged across studies but were consistently meaningful. Think of it this way. If you could barely walk 5 blocks, The interventions moved the needle, so you could walk 7 or 8. That's not nothing, that's freedom. Body composition shifted too. People lost weight. More importantly, they lost the right kind of weight, metabolically active fat, not just water. Their waist circumferences dropped, their BMI improved. And here's where it gets interesting. The weight loss happened not just because they were exercising more, but because their metabolic system was actually healing. They weren't fighting against broken biology anymore. Quality of life scores went up across the board. People reported feeling better, having more energy, dealing with less depression and anxiety. That's real measurable improvement in how people actually experience existence. But here's the honest part. The effect sizes varied. Some studies showed massive improvements. Others showed moderate ones. And not every single study looked at every single metric. So we can't pretend we have perfect data on every possible outcome. The studies also tended to be relatively short-term, so we don't know if these benefits stick around for years or if they fade. And the research mostly comes from controlled settings, which means real-world results might be messier. What does this actually mean for you, though? If you have diabetes and your lipid profile is a mess, the evidence now says exercise, combined with some attention to nutrition, actually works. Not kind of works. Not in theory. Actually works. You don't need to run marathons. The studies show that even moderate-intensity aerobic training, combined with resistance work 2 or 3 times a week, plus some basic nutritional guidance, produces real metabolic healing. Your body is not broken. It's just been running in the wrong mode. Reset it, and it responds. The big limitation nobody's talking about enough. Most of this research comes from controlled settings with supervision, medical oversight, and people who were already motivated enough to enroll in a study. Real life is messier. Most people quit. Most people don't have access to physiotherapists or structured programs. And the research doesn't really tell us what the minimum effective dose is. How little can you do and still see results? That answer's still fuzzy. But here's what this sits alongside in the broader field. We're finally treating metabolic diseases like metabolic problems, not just chemical problems. For 30 years, the standard approach was pills for everything. Statins for cholesterol, metformin for blood sugar. And they help. But this research suggests that non-pharmacological interventions aren't secondary. They're foundational. They're the main event. Cardiology, endocrinology, and physical medicine are slowly realizing that the body is a system, and you can't fix one part while ignoring the rest. The question nobody's really asked yet is this. If exercise-based hybrid rehab works this well for diabetic dyslipidemia, what else have we been underselling? Here's what actually blows my mind about this. Millions of people right now are taking expensive medications that do maybe half of what a structured exercise and nutrition program does. Not instead of medications, with them. But the medications are where all the money, attention, and prestige are. Turns out, the cheaper solution works better for many people, and we're only slowly admitting that out loud. Turns out, scientists have been busy, and they're not done yet.